Day one of minicamp is in the books for the Bengals. Let's break down the takeaways, the news, etc. First up, Jamar Chase is present at minicamp after he had his contract extension desire, didn't show up for voluntary OTAs. Now that it's mandatory, now they're supposed to be here, Jamar Chase is indeed present. More on this and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow and Trent Brown to come. But for more Bengals minicamp coverage, we'll do takeaways each day. We'll do winners and losers once things wrap up. We'll see if it's 2 days or 3 days, by the way. It might just end up being the 2, given Zach Taylor's history. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Look, Chase being present was expected. It would be concerning if he wasn't there. It's mandatory. You're supposed to show up. But it is a good thing. And it is something to be like, okay, that's to the side there. Backs up what Zach Taylor had said, what Chase had said that he said he would be there. Shows that Chase is doing the right things, going about his business the right way, all the different, adjective stuff you can throw in there. It's all there. Of note, however, Jamar Chase did not do any of these 7-on-7 drills. He did the walkthrough stuff, didn't do the team stuff, which I do think is noteworthy. How noteworthy is it? Not very much. I don't think this is a hold-in situation. That strikes me as more, we're ramping him up. We're getting him involved at the proper pacing since he hasn't been around the team and hasn't really been in the building as of late. Check in again with me in July in training camp. If he's not doing team stuff then, it's going to raise your back. Because I assume he's just going to wait on a contract. And they'll do it, next August. He'll get a big fat, $35 whatever million a year deal and big cash up front. But it is something just to kind of file away and remember in a month and a half or so. Now, also as expected, T. Higgins did not report to the Bengals for mandatory minicamp, which this was inevitable. Nobody out there thought that T. Higgins was going to show up for minicamp. It was never the plan. The Bengals never thought he was going to be there. In fact, technically speaking, this isn't actually a holdout. I mean, it is, but it's not a discipline possible holdout. Higgins has not yet signed his contract. He is not actually under contract with the organization as a result. He hasn't signed that franchise tag. Therefore, he cannot be fined. So the only, recourse option for the Bengals is to withdraw the franchise tag. Guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to withdraw the franchise tag. So we know exactly how this will play out. Higgins will not be here for minicamp. I don't think he shows up for training camp at least the start of training camp. At some point later on into August, early September, he shows up and probably plays pretty well. So you can get your predictions in for me here on today's pinned comment. Do you think T. Higgins ends up reporting for training camp? I don't think he does, but do you disagree? Y for yes, N for no. It is that pinned comment, so go vote down there, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Let's go to Joe Burrow. I think in theory, the potential concern pushed to the side. Burrow was back throwing at minicamp today. He remains optimistic, says he's in a good spot in his rehab progression. Let's get to the lengthy Burrow quotes, then spend some more time discussing it. It's a constant process, Burrow said. That's what coming back from injury is. There's going to be good days and bad days, and we're going to take it day by day. That's tough to say. That's about when he'll be 100%. I'll be ready by the beginning of the season. When you're coming back from injury, you're learning to maneuver your body in new ways you haven't done in a while. So there's going to be things that pop up, whether it's the wrist or something else you have to work through, kind of like overcompensation stuff, right? Come back from injury, that happens every time. I've been through that, so I can handle it better. So what is your confidence level in Joe Burrow, probably specifically staying healthy and playing at a high-end level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comment section of today's video. I still feel pretty good about Joe Burrow's status. We can officially say RIP to the borderline conspiracy theory Joe Burrow's going to be the Madden cover. I never thought it made much sense because he didn't play much last year. Normally the Madden cover goes to someone coming off a career. 2 years ago, it probably would have made more sense for Burrow to be on that cover. The straight-up conspiracy theory of Joe Burrow missed practice, and that's why it was the weird Zach Taylor timing thing, because he was doing the Madden photo shoot, that never made sense to me. You know what Madden's going to do? Is not make the superstar player miss a work day. They'll do it on an off day. They'll do it on the other 4 days a week they're not at practice for the photo shoot stuff. So I I thought that was kind of crazy. Maybe there's still some truth elements to the whole Burrow was supposed to be good to go but wasn't, and they just gave him an extra cautious day. Maybe that's possible. Here's what I think happens for minicamp. Bengals have practice tomorrow. Joe Burrow throws. They cancel day 3 of practice. Zach Taylor's done that before when things are going well, and also allows the Bengals to give Joe Burrow the rest day and not have the media see it and have everyone freak out. Just a theory. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Now, coming up next on today's show, Trent Brown did report to the Bengals for minicamp. However, he did not only get work at right tackle, which I find incredibly curious and interesting. More on that here momentarily. But if you're still watching today's video and you haven't subscribed, I don't really know what you're doing. Clearly like the content. You've been watching for like 6 minutes now. It's a pretty long time to watch a YouTube video, for being honest, in the modern day life environment we live in, whatever the proper terminology there is. And we'll be live for every Bengals game. That's why we hired Stone. He'll take over full-time as Bengals host, and he gets to do all the Bengals watch parties, have all the fun this year. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Now, my boy Charlie Clifford, who I will say I meant to text about this, and I forgot to, so we'll have an update for you later in the week, tweeted this out. It says, interesting, Trent Brown worked in at right guard in addition to right tackle during the install portion of Tuesday's minicamp. Brown and Mims on the right side is a sight to behold. I find this really interesting and fascinating because I didn't think they'd do that because you have Alex Kappa there. Now, I didn't know where Kappa was during this. That's what I meant to text Charlie about and see what the details were there. With if he was getting a breather, if he was on the left side in place of Cordell Volson, which I think would make the most sense from a roster construction standpoint. But if you're just working on the emergency backup option, that's how it starts to make some sense for Brown to play guard. But you only pay Trent Brown $2 million. Spend a first-round pick or $4 million. Only spend a first-round pick on Amarius Mims. He's not really guaranteed a contract spot. Trent Brown's a really big person, and you don't always put your really big person in there at guard because it makes it tough for the quarterback to see over them sometimes. It's why you go look at like some, especially college stuff like Kyler Murray and others, the splits are super wide to give literal throwing lanes to the small guys. Trent Brown eats up said throwing lane. But if you were the Bengals coach, where would you play Trent Brown? Type in T for tackle or type in G for guard. Let me know in the comments section of today's video where you would play Trent Brown. There's 2 ways to look at this. How do you get just your best 5 out there, versus how do you maximize your right tackle and maximize each position and ordering of dissension? Because I think there's a really good argument, looking at this Bengals depth chart, that your best 5, and we can make the position, the best 5 is Orlando Brown, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, Trent Brown, Amarius Mims. And those are your best 5 players. How do you get them all on the field at once? Probably playing one of Brown or Mims at guard. And I think because Mims is your long-term right tackle, maybe you try Brown at guard. Also, he's happy that he gets to play. He doesn't pout as he has sometimes in the past. But if you want to maximize right tackle and right guard and left guard, maybe it's this 5 with the Brown-Mims battle that I think I'm curious to see how that continues to play out. So I hadn't really considered the Bengals trying out Trent Brown at right guard. He's played left tackle. He's played right tackle over the course of his NFL career. Now I'm interested. Now I'm like, okay, what happens tomorrow on Wednesday at minicamp? What other updates do we end up getting? But not just now, but in training camp in July with how the Bengals play this whole thing out. Because they're at least, to give Brown the first day he shows up reps at guard, I don't think that can be understated. That is a big deal as far as I'm concerned. So what I thought was a fairly straightforward Bengals offensive line, do the right tackle battle between Brown and Mims. You know what? Now I'm not so sure. That is, frankly, I think my biggest takeaway from day 1 at minicamp, putting Brown at guard. We will see how that continues to play out. So make sure you guys are subscribed here to Bengals Breakdown. youtube.com/BengalsTV. Hit that sub button for more free videos and more minicamp updates.